Welcome back. In the previous few steps, we created a few components. One of the things which we did not really discuss until now in depth is what is happening when you load a page. How is the specific component getting rendered? Let's discuss that in detail in this specific step. Whatever we are discussing is called bootstrapping of an Angular application. And in the bootstrapping of an Angular application, there are two things which play a crucial role: the root module and the root component. Let's understand what is bootstrapping, root module, and root component. If you do a right click view page source on this page, you'd see this index.html which is being loaded. You can see app root present in here. So what is happening here is the first file is index.html, and in parallel to that there is a file called main.ts. If you look at this main.ts, what we are doing in here is we are loading up a app module. So we are importing the app module in and we are bootstrapping it. Whichever module is the one which is first bootstrapped in an Angular application is called the root module. That's the reason why we call app module the root module. Once this root module gets initialized, if you look at the root module, you would see that along with the root module, what are we initializing? We are initializing the app component. In the bootstrap, we are defining that it's a app component, and therefore the app component also gets bootstrapped. It gets ready to be loaded. And what we are doing in index.html is loading up the app component. If you look at the app component, you would see that the tag associated with it is app root, and that's what is present in index.html. What is getting here is app module is getting initialized. Once app module is initialized, the app component gets initialized, and in the index.html, the app root, that's basically the tag of the app component, is getting initialized. Once we go there, we get the app.component.html. Whatever is in the app.component.html becomes the view source. So whatever we see in here is rendered. Whatever is in app.component.html becomes the main part of the screen. So what I'll do here is I'll say to do application, and I'll put a few BRs after this. You can see that the to do application, and below that is the router outlet. And if I type in 28 minutes dummy, which is the right user ID and password, you'd see that the to do application header will remain right there. The rest of the content is changing, but the to do application remains as it is in there, because that's the one which is loaded by the app component.html. App component.html is loading up this as well as the router outlet. So if I would have something like a to do application header here, and if I have a to do application footer in here, this can actually be a header or a menu, right? I can have some menu as part of it as well. What would happen? You'd see that you would have the header, the footer, and you would have the content in between. Let's go back and let's type in 28 minutes dummy. So you'll have a header, the content of the page, and the footer. Header, content of the page, footer. You can see that the header and footer are not changing at all. They are constant. The only things which are changing are the content of the page. So in summary, what is happening is the app module is the root module which gets loaded first. App module which would load the app component. When the app component is loaded in the index.html, because of this app root, the app.component.html is what is rendered. And we see router outlet because of the router outlet and the fact that in the app routing.module.ts, we said the default path matches to login component. What happens is inside the router, the login component is first initialized. And that's why when you do localhost 4200, you would see the login component first. In this video, we focused on the bootstrapping of an Angular application. We looked at how the root module is getting loaded. We looked at how the root component is getting loaded, and we saw how the content inside the root component plays an important role. I'll see you in the next step. Until then, bye-bye.